Hi, welcome to the Dartarian Show. I'm Alexander Dartarian.
And I'm Dominic Sykes.
And today we're going to do Lizzie Borden.
Lizzie Borden, the axe murderess herself.
Oh, maybe.
The possible axe murderess.
Yeah, the alleged.
The alleged.
Murder. So, Lizzie Andrew Borden was born in Fall River, Massachusetts on July 19th, 1860, to Sarah Anthony Borden and Andrew Jackson Borden. Lizzie grew up in a very modest surroundings, not even having indoor plumbing, which was standard at the time.
Damn.
Yeah. So she didn't even literally have a bathroom.
Yeah.
The only bathroom was in the cellar.
Gross.
So, despite her father being one of the wealthiest men in America at the time, with a net worth of $300,000, which in today's money would be around $9 to $10 million.
Yeah.
So they had the money.
Why?
He was a very frugal man.
Oh, Jesus.
Lizzie, with her sister Emma Lenora Borden, were brought up to be fairly religious, often attending Central Congregational Church, for where she taught Sunday school. She was also involved in several other projects, such as Christian Endeavor Society, Women's Christian Temperance Union, and Ladies' Fruit and Flower Mission.
And this was Lizzie that was involved in all this?
Yep, all Lizzie was involved with. She was a good Christian
Model
woman.
Christian lady. Yeah.
Victorian, modern Christian lady, yep. Lizzie's mother died in 1863 of uterine congestion and spinal disease, leaving Andrew, Lizzie, and Emma alone.
Lovely.
Yep.
That already sounds like it's not going to be a good thing.
Yeah. They weren't alone for long, though. 3 years after Sarah's death, Andrew married Abby DeFree Gray. Lizzie called Abby mother until Lizzie came under the impression that Abby married Andrew for his wealth. She then started calling her Mrs. Borden. Andrew bought Abby's sister a house, which upset Lizzie and Emma, who then demanded their father buy them a house. Andrew bought them a small rental, but made the two sisters buy the house from them for $1.
What?
He bought them a house.
But still made them pay for it, in a way.
Yeah. Like, oh, yeah, I'll buy you a house, but you got to pay me $1.
Well, I mean, that's not that...
Yeah, but it's still... but
it's kind of shitty,
Abby's sister didn't have to pay him anything.
Yeah, that's
he just
true.
bought it.
Yeah.
Another instance of Lizzie's belief that Abby married her father for his wealth was a second maid they had hired, Bridget Sullivan, an Irish immigrant. She was a 25-year-old maid Abby hired to keep the house clean, which Lizzie saw as Abby being lazy. Abby also called Bridget Maggie and refused to address her by anything else because the maid they had before was named Maggie, and she didn't want to learn a new name.
That's messed up.
Yeah, that is.
This lady sounds like a real piece of work.
According to rumors, Abby called Lizzie an equivalent to a modern-day whore because she accompanied a doctor to church one Sunday without an escort, which apparently was a big no-no at the time. Yeah, like you could not court someone without an escort.
Yeah.
Even though Lizzie at this time was 30-some years old.
Right.
So
she was going on non-escorted dates.
Yeah. And which they could have just been friends.
Yeah.
Just the doctor taking her to the freaking... but that doctor's going to come into play here later on in the story.
Right.
By 1892, things in the Borden house were becoming very heated as Lizzie and Emma moved back in to their father's house after selling their house to him for $5,000.
Wait, why?
I don't know. They just can't move back in and sold it to him for $5,000, which would be $156,000 today.
Yeah, so they made money off of it.
Yeah, so
which is good, I guess.
Which will come in. I also remember this because later on in the trial we'll talk about that again.
Okay.
Lizzie was caring for her roost of pigeons in the family barn when her father discovered this. He took a hatchet and killed them, calling them pests.
Wow.
Being upset at this protest,
foreshadowing.
Yeah, Lizzie protested this, and Abby made it worse by cooking the pigeons, serving them for dinner, and calling Lizzie a spoiled brat for not eating.
What? So not only did he kill them, but they cooked them.
Yeah.
And got mad at her because she didn't want to eat it.
But that was rumor. It was never proven.
Okay.
So we don't know if that really happened or not.
Yeah.
But that is conjecture, basically. It's rumor.
Right.
This and several other arguments caused the Scissors to take an extended holiday in New Bedford. After returning home in the last week of July, Lizzie decided to stay at a boarding house for a few days before returning home.
So it sounds like her and her sister are pretty close.
I guess.
I mean, they go everywhere together. They moved out together. They went on this vacation together.
Yeah, closest.
Yeah.
They're basically what you would call spinsters.
Yeah.
Unmarried women back then that
Yeah.
just didn't. They're Emma was older than Lizzie, so
Yeah.
Abby had, upon returning home, Abby cooked mutton for Lizzie and Emma's uncle John Morse, the brother of Sarah, Lizzie and Emma's late mother. The family became violently sick from the meal, and Abby suspected that they had been poisoned since Andrew was an unpopular person. Although the mutton had been left out on the stove for a few days, which would have led to food poisoning.
For sure.
Yeah. On August 3rd, 1892, Emma left for a friend's house out of town. John and Andrew had a heated argument about the property before going to bed in the guest room that evening, which is also speculative. They don't know. The family had an early dinner of, some say, swordfish, others say mutton stew, and became violently ill, taking turns throwing up in the backyard. Lizzie was not as ill as the others, which may come back to haunt her later, as you will see.
I see.
The murders. John Morse arrived in the evening of August 3rd and slept in the guest room that night. After breakfast the next morning, at which Andrew, Abby, Lizzie, Morse, and the Borden's maid, Bridget, a.k.a. Maggie, were present. Andrew and Morse went to the sitting room, where they chatted for nearly an hour. Morse left around 8:48 a.m. to buy a pair of oxen and visit his niece in Fall River, planning to return to the Borden house for lunch at noon. Andrew left for his morning walk sometime after 9 a.m. Although the cleaning of the guest room was one of Lizzie and Emma's regular chores, Abby went upstairs sometime between 9 a.m. and 10:30 a.m. to make the bed. According to the forensic investigation, Abby was facing her killer at the time of the attack, which is also speculated. They don't know if that was true at all. She was first struck on the side of the head with a hatchet, which cut her just above the ear, causing her to turn and face down on the floor, creating contusions on her nose and forehead. Her killer then struck her multiple times, delivering 17 more direct blows to the back of her head, killing her. So she got 18 whacks, basically, with an axe. When Andrew returned home at around 10:30 a.m., his key failed to open the door, so he knocked. Sullivan went to unlock the door, finding it jammed. She uttered a curse. She would later testify that she heard Lizzie laughing immediately after this. She did not see Lizzie, but stated that the laughter was coming from the top of the stairs. Her statement changes, so don't. This was considered significant as Abby was already dead by this time.
Excuse me, sorry.
Her body would have been visible to anyone on the home's second floor, which is also speculated. Lizzie later denied being upstairs and testified that her father had asked her where Abby was, to which she replied that a messenger had delivered Abby a summons to visit a sick friend. Now, there are multiple stories going on here. There's Bridget, the maid.
Right.
Lizzie.
Yeah.
And obviously her father can't talk.
Right.
Because later you're going to find out he's got killed.
Yeah.
So Lizzie said that she wasn't upstairs.
Right.
But Maggie Bridget remembers seeing her devoid of blood.
Right.
And her hair is pristine and everything. She did not have any blood on her at this time.
Which would have been really hard to do, I think, if
after you hit
she had
18
just
times.
killed or hit somebody 7 or 18 times.
And again, Andrew had went upstairs to change. Did not see his wife.
Which is, that's weird.
And this
no
house,
blood or anything? You didn't see any blood or nothing?
Nope. This house is set up in a way to where it doesn't have any hallways.
Right.
So you have to walk through room to room to room.
Right.
So he would have had to walk through the guest room to his room.
Yeah.
Did not see her.
It's weird.
So
Where did she go?
no, she was still there. Basically, what it is, the killer killed her and then pushed her underneath the bed
Right.
a little bit
But
to where you could just see her feet.
Yeah.
I don't know.
How
Like,
did
if
he
you're not
not
looking for a body,
I guess, yeah, if he wasn't paying attention. But
Yeah.
you still think you'd see the blood or something like that.
if you're not, if
Yeah, I
you've
don't know.
walked through that room 1,000 times.
I suppose.
Yeah.
Okay, so he didn't see his wife.
No, and so Lizzie stated then she had removed Andrew's boots and helped him into his slippers before he lay down on the sofa for his nap. Again, this was after multiple talks with the police,
Mm-hmm.
and we're going to find out why this may have slipped her mind later on. The crime scene photos indicated that Andrew was still wearing his boots, so that right there is a lie, I guess. Then she informed Sullivan of a department store sale and offered her permission to attend. But Sullivan felt unwell and went to take a nap in her bedroom instead, which, again, is one story. Sullivan testified that she was in her third-floor room resting from cleaning windows when just about 11:10 a.m., she heard Lizzie call from downstairs, "Maggie, come quick, father's dead. Someone came in and killed him," end quote. Andrew was slumped on the couch in the downstairs sitting room, struck 10 or 11 times with a hatchet-like weapon. Actually, it was 14.
Both of these people, Andrew and his wife Abby, were killed while there were other people in the house.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't like it was
Well, during Abby's murder, Maggie was cleaning windows,
right,
which is going to come into play again.
Okay. Probably should wait and see how the case unfolds before I make any more observations. But just
you're fine,
noticing
no.
small things at the moment
Yeah.
that are kind of weird.
There's different renditions of this. Some say they got hit 10 or 11 times, but I think the real number was around 14.
Right.
I think,
Well, yeah.
So he got 14 and Abby got 18.
Yeah.
One of his eyes had been split cleanly in two, suggesting that he had been asleep when attacked. He was still bleeding, and that suggested a very recent attack.
Yeah.
Dr. Bowen, the same doctor who
was dating, supposedly dating
Lizzie.
Lizzie, yeah.
The family's physician, arrived from home across the street and pronounced both victims dead. Detectives estimated that Andrew's death had occurred at approximately 11 a.m. Again, notice this timeline. 11 was when he was killed.
Yeah.
11:10,
Approximately 11:10 is what they say, yeah.
was when Lizzie said someone's killed him.
Yeah.
When Bridget saw her, she had no blood on her.
Right.
When the doctor came over, no blood. When the cops got there, no blood.
Right.
So they have to spill. One of the rumors is that she killed them in the nude, but it's very hard to put those dresses that they had on back then.
Right.
It took time. You could not do it in 10 minutes, and she would have had to shower.
Yeah.
Or bathe herself.
I was going to say, because
the
blood would have gotten on her.
Yeah, there was no blood on her.
But there's no blood on anybody else in the house either, though, is there, except the bodies?
Yeah.
So then somebody in that house had to have killed her, I think. Maybe there's something that comes into play a little bit later, but, you know, if it was anybody in the house, you think that they would have blood on them.
And during this day that happened, there was a annual police day, basically, where the majority of the police were at an amusement park.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And it is to say that this also happened on a very, very busy street. This is on Main Street in Fall River. And at the time, Fall River was the third biggest city in Massachusetts.
Wow.
So it was very, very, it was a thoroughfare. It was like everybody was walking by and stuff.
Like
Someone would have noticed
something weird.
Also, two people being in the house, no one heard the noise. I mean,
Lizzie and the maid.
Yeah. So let's get into the investigation.
Yep.
Lizzie Borden's initial answers to the police officers' questions were at times strange and contradictory. Initially, she reported hearing a groan or a scraping noise or a distress call before entering the house. Which
would have been when
it was either mother or father was killed, or her stepmother or father was killed. 2 hours later, she told the police she had heard nothing and entered the house, not realizing that anything was wrong.
Yeah, that's conflicting story.
When
That's
asked where her stepmother was, she recounted Abby receiving a note asking her to visit a sick friend, which she told Maggie and her father.
Right.
She also stated that she thought Abby had returned, and she asked if someone could go upstairs and look for her. Sullivan and a neighbor, Mrs. Churchill, were halfway up the stairs, their eye levels with the floor, when they looked into the guest room and saw Abby laying face down on the floor. Most of the officers who interviewed Borden reported that they disliked her attitude. Some said she was too calm and poised, although she was drugged by her doctor with morphine to keep her calm.
Mm-hmm.
There was enough morphine in her to literally
that would
dull
that.
everything.
Yeah.
And he also gave her caffeine to keep her awake so the cops could question her.
Wow.
So, yeah, I could understand why she was mellow.
Not to mention the fact that she didn't really like her stepmom to begin with.
Well, that and it doesn't matter. You don't know how you would react. People react to a trauma like that differently. And that's why I don't get when crime shows are like, oh, well, they didn't act this way.
Or they weren't stressed enough or something like that. They could be in shock.
Yeah, she literally could be in shock. She just walked in, her father cleaved in half almost.
Yeah.
So, police found a torn up note and were in the middle of assembling the note when the same doctor grabbed the papers and told the police that it wasn't important and threw the scraps in the fire.
What?
Which could have been the note that Abby was received.
Which would have been proof that Lizzie was telling the truth.
Yeah. But he threw it away.
Uh-huh.
In the fire. Which is odd.
Yeah, that is weird.
Again, and he's also a doctor. No one would question if he was covered in blood.
The doctor, maybe?
I don't know.
But when would he have done that?
Don't know. Like I said, I'm giving alternate theories at the same time.
Yeah, that's definitely cool to hear all the theories. It's just I don't see the doctor angle of it.
We'll do a deep dive into theories.
Yeah.
So in the basement, police found 2 hatchets, 2 axes, and a hatchet head, which had been a broken handle. The hatchet head was suspected of being the murder weapon, as there was a break in the handle appeared fresh, and the ash and dust on the head, unlike that of the other bladed weapons, appeared it would have been deliberately applied. So they think that that might have to make it look like it had been in the bed. Yeah, it was basically to make sure
it was old and
to
dusty.
make it look like old.
Yeah.
However, none of the tools were removed from the house. Because of the mysterious illness that had stricken the household before the murders, the family's milk and Andrew's and Abby's stomachs were removed, with autopsies performed in the Borden dining room. Were tested for poison. None of was found. So there was no poison in milk, no poison in their body. Yeah. So it was just food poisoning. Yeah. Which is understandable because, anyways, residents suspected Lizzie of purchasing hydrocyanic acid in a diluted form from a local drugstore, but no evidence was found of this, and it came out months after the investigation was in the heights of the paper.
Right. People will talk and
so he just wanted to be a part of the story. The drugstore guy.
Yeah.
He was like, I want to be a part of the story.
Yeah, I sold Lizzie some
diluted he didn't sell it. She inquired about it. He said that he inquired about it, and he's like, no, Lizzie, you need to. Like that. But the sheriff's wife did the same thing to see if he would sell it to her. Around the same time, he said that Lizzie came in. So he may have mistaken.
Why did the sheriff's wife want it?
Just because basically a sting operation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, if he would have sold it, he would have been in
so
trouble.
He just used that interaction and said it was Lizzie. And
he may have just mistaken the two and just saw the Lizzie thing. And he's like, oh, I want to be a star of the story.
Yeah.
Lizzie and Emma's friend, Alice Russell, decided to stay the night with them following the murders, while Morse spent the night in the attic guest room, contrary to later accounts that he slept in the murder site guest room. Police were stationed around the house on the night of August 4th, during which an officer said that he had seen Borden enter the cellar with Russell, carrying a kerosene lamp and a slop pail. He stated he saw both women exit the cellar, after which Borden returned alone, though he was unable to see what she was doing. He stated it appeared she was bent over in the sink. It is important to the case to say that Lizzie was menstruating at the time. And the cellar had the only running water for the whole house, and it also had the only working toilet. The slop pail was found with bloody menstrual rags in it later. So she went down there to change her pad, basically. That and the officer was kind of creepy. On August 5th, Morse left the house and was mobbed by hundreds of people. Police had to escort him back to the house on August 6th. Police conducted more thorough search of the house because came back from the amusement park, inspecting the sister's clothing and confiscating the broken-handled hatchet head. That evening, a police officer and the mayor visited the Bordens, and Lizzie was informed that she was a suspect in the murders. The next morning, Russell entered the kitchen to find Borden tearing up a dress. She explained that she was planning to put it on the fire because it was covered in green paint, which it was covered in green paint.
A lot of coincidences that make it seem like
she didn't
up
help
to
herself.
Yeah.
And she needed the hook for another dress, which was common practice for at the time.
Right.
Basically, you would burn the dress to get the hook. Because Lizzie, who was expected to wear grieving attire for an entire year, would have needed to buy a new dress. So this did make sense. With the police thinking that they found their culprit, the investigation was over. So they thought that they had found Lizzie.
Yeah,
like Lizzie
did
murderer,
it.
No matter.
Gonna close this off now.
Yeah. So leading up to the murders, Lizzie and Abby did not get along.
No.
There was a lot of rumors of infighting. There was also rumors. A lot of rumors came out from this investigation. It was huge at the time.
Yeah.
One of the stories was, and this was highly speculated, this was not even proven at all, that Lizzie was molested by her father. That he came in and did stuff to her and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And Abby let it go, and that's why she hated Abby. So that's why she killed them.
And it wasn't because she was mad about the money or whatever.
No, there was no proof of that at all. There was no proof that he did anything to her, and it didn't come out in the trial.
Right.
Or anything like that.
There was never a...
The newspapers were frenzied at this point.
Of course.
This was the biggest case. It was the case of the century.
Yeah.
So a lot of rumors were coming out at this time. And
I think that messes an investigation up pretty bad too.
It does.
Especially if you're looking back on it from like the farther back stuff. A lot of stuff gets muddled and changed around, and untrue things are bounced around enough to where people think that they're true, you know. And media's king of that shit.
yeah, and modern day rumors are there's a theory going around that Lizzie and Maggie, the maid, were in a lesbian relationship.
And they both did kill them.
And they both killed them together. But Abby found out, walked in on them, and she killed Abby and then her dad to cover it up. So.
But that's just one of those rumors, theories, or whatever.
Yeah.
Is there any theories? I'm sure we'll get into it, but I want to know if there are any theories of other people beside Lizzie.
Yes.
Like there are several of theories of how she did it or why she did it, stuff like that. I get all those, but I want to see if there are any theories about maybe like the maid having done it, or the doctor somehow. Even though I don't really see how that would work.
There are different suspects, and during the trial they do bring them up.
All right.
But also, when we get into the trial, it's going to be there's going to be some stuff in there that's going to be like, what the F?
Yeah.
Like, this would never happen nowadays and stuff.
Yeah.
And it is important to talk about, at this point in time, they did not do fingerprints. They didn't do any kind of blood evidence and all that stuff.
Right.
As we're going to see in the trial, when they talk about blood, it's going to be like, these people are idiots.
Yeah.
This is not how it works.
Not how it works at all.
And, but no, like the fingerprinting in America didn't become common practice until 1911.
Oh, wow.
So it's
They didn't have that kind of stuff
1892
back then.
right now.
Yeah.
So that almost 20
A lot
years
of evidence
later.
to be circumstantial then.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
there
It
wouldn't be a whole
basically,
lot
if
of
they didn't
hard
find
evidence.
or if they didn't find you covered in blood with the murder weapon,
You
you had
wouldn't get, yeah, you got
a
away with it.
yeah, a really good chance of getting away with it.
Yeah, you would have had to, you either had a witness or two that seen you
Yeah.
or something like that. Not no alibi to check out or some shit like that. I don't know.
So, but basically, and also the doctor did inform the police as soon as they got there that Lizzie was menstruating, and the police were like, okay, like back then, women menstruating was really, really like men didn't talk about it.
Yeah,
It was
for
like
sure.
they were, I guess, somewhat disgusted with it, or they just didn't talk about it. They're just
Yeah.
like, oh, okay,
Yeah, that's it.
I don't care. And which is why the pail and everything, as you're going to see later, is
Yeah.
not going to come into the menstrual rags
Right.
covered in blood. Aren't going to come up later.
Yeah,
They're not even going to
they
be
don't
like,
even
man.
discuss it. Yeah,
So, with Lizzie coming up and Emma being out of town, if they're so close to each other, like if Lizzie did it,
yeah,
wouldn't you think Emma would know?
probably
But it's kind of convenient that Emma goes out of town
the night that it happens.
the day it happens,
Yeah,
or the night before it happens.
right.
That is kind of convenient. But like I said,
So maybe Emma did it.
I don't know. Like with Lizzie, it's with this case, it's all signs are pointing to Lizzie.
Yeah,
But we're gonna see later that there's a lot of stuff that can't point to Lizzie. There's no way she could have done it.
right.
But there's also she didn't help herself by burning the dress.
Yeah,
Also, they found a handle that was wrapped and put in the fire, the stove, but it was a newspaper. That was like, it's a rolled up piece of newspaper. That's all they found. They think that she burned the handle, that she
To
had
the
wrapped it in
axe.
the newspaper and then put it in there.
But they
But
don't
only
prove
the
that.
handle would have burned.
Yeah, no,
That makes no sense.
no. The
So,
newspaper didn't, but the handle, whatever.
So, do you have any thing to add to Lizzie Borden, her early life and the murders?
She definitely had a hard childhood, and early life in general. I just say her dad is weird. Having that much money and then they still only have like one working cellar bathroom.
Yeah.
I don't know, but no, I don't really have any kind of theories yet.
Also, do you
Probably
think
need some more
that
information.
if the pigeon story was true, this dude was a bastard? If it was true, it's not. It's a rumor, another rumor,
Yeah,
obviously. But we are going to get into her her story right now. Basically, we when the police actually inquest her to talk.
yeah.
So, did you? So, obviously, the stepmother,
Was pretty shitty.
was but she received 18 hits,
Yeah, so more
and
than the
more
dad
than her
did.
father. Yeah,
So definitely had it out for her in particular. I don't know. I can definitely see what her motive would be, with stepmom being the way she is.
Yeah.
Just a terrible person by the sounds of it. She even refused to call the maid by her name because
she refused to. Yeah.
didn't want to learn a new name.
All right, let's talk about the inquest.
Yeah.
So Borden appeared at the inquest hearing on August 8th. Her request to have her family attorney present was refused under the state statute, providing that an inquest must be held in private. Which she did not get she was not afforded a lawyer present during questioning. Was a huge. I don't know if the Miranda. I don't think the Miranda rights were around at this time, but she had been prescribed regular doses of morphine to calm her nerves, as I stated before, and it's possible that her testimony was affected by this. It's
Yeah.
more than likely.
And she didn't have a lawyer present, so she didn't have any kind of filter between her and the questioners.
Her behavior was erratic, and she often refused to answer a question, even if the answer would be beneficial to her. She often contradicted herself and provided alternating accounts of the morning. in question, such as saying that she was in the kitchen reading a magazine where her father arrived home, then saying she was in the dining room doing some ironing, and then she said she was coming down the stairs. She also said she removed her father's boots, put slippers on,
But as
while
we know,
police
his
photographs
boots.
clearly showed he was wearing his
Yeah.
boots. The district attorney was very aggressive and confrontational.
Yeah.
On August 11th, Borden was served with a warrant of an arrest and jailed. The inquest testimony, the basis of a modern debate regarding her guilt or innocence, and was later ruled inadmissible at her trial in June 1893. Newspaper articles noted that Borden possessed a stolid demeanor and bit her lips, flushed and bent toward Attorney Adams.
Okay.
So
she had like a thing for him, I guess.
No, she was just back then appearances were everything.
Right.
So if you didn't act a certain way, like so basically it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of thing.
Yeah.
If she acted like
One
she
way,
was torn up, she'd
yeah.
do like, oh, well, she's overacting.
She's faking it.
She's faking it. But if she acted like a Victorian woman was supposed to act,
Then
she was being cold
and distant.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. Why is she not care more type deal?
It was also reported that the testimony provided in the inquest had caused a change of opinion among her friends who have heretofore strongly maintained her innocence.
So they started questioning.
Yeah, she questioned if she did it or not. The inquest received a significant press attention nationwide, including an extensive 3-page write-up in the Boston Globe. A grand jury began hearing the evidence on November 7th, and Borden was indicted on December 2nd. And that's what we'll pick up for part 2 of Lizzie Borden.
Yeah, that's interesting. I obviously knew who Lizzie Borden was. I'd heard the rough story before, the song that you hear when you're a kid, know, all that kind of stuff. But I'd never really gotten a deep dive into it before.
Well, do you want to hear the rhyme?
The what?
Do you want to hear the rhyme?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Okay. Because everyone who talks about Lizzie Borden have to say the rhyme.
Right.
And it's still prevalent in Fall River to this day.
Yeah.
They know this rhyme by heart. Lizzie Borden took an axe and gave her I've already messed it up. Lizzie Borden took an axe and gave her mother 40 whacks. When she had seen what she had done, she gave her father 41.
Yep.
And the rhyme continues because that first verse right there is what most people say.
Yeah.
But there is a other part of it.
Well, let's hear it.
Andrew Borden now is dead. Lizzie hit him on the head. Up in heaven he will sing. On the gallows she will swing.
Oh, wow.
So that's
Pretty
the
creepy
second
rhyme.
part.
Damn.
It's the less well-known part of it, but that's the second part. So basically, in reality, Borden's stepmother suffered 18 and he suffered 14.
Yeah, but it just worked better for the rhyme and seemed more,
If you guys want to, there's some awesome books out there about this. Also, there's a couple movies. The Simpsons did a parody of it.
Do a lot of them too.
Yeah. So basically, if Lizzie Borden is probably one of the most famous women in America. When you say Lizzie Borden, everybody knows who she is.
Yeah.
But my thing is she famous for the wrong reasons?
Yeah.
I mean, more than a trial to see if she murdered them, it was the first trial by media.
Yeah. And you have more recent ones like OJ's trial,
Casey Anthony.
Yeah, stuff like that too to compare it to. And
yeah,
because we've had several trials of the century in my lifetime,
But the difference between Lizzie Borden and Casey Anthony,
Anthony
100% did it.
Yeah.
And I am confident in that. And if we get sued, oh well, but she did it. But we may talk about her later on the podcast. Yeah. I don't know. But that was Lizzie Borden Part 1. We hope you enjoyed it. Lizzie Borden Part 2 will be next week, where we get into the trial, the acquittal, later life, and some speculative theories about who we thought did it.
Yeah, I want to get the whole picture so I can start.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Some theories of my own.
Well, we'll see you guys next week for Lizzie Borden Part 2. And after that, we're going to skip the creepypasta, just because I want to get into our next subject, and that's going to be Chernobyl.
Yeah.
And that's also going to be another 2-parter because there's a lot of information about that.
Yep.
So let us know what you thought of this. Do you think Lizzie Borden did it with what we just talked about now?
And how did she do it if she did do it?
Yeah, like,
obviously we know how she killed them, but I meant like how
what if she wrote a book? If I did it like OJ did?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, guys. We appreciate it, and we will catch you later on next week's episode. And if you have any questions, comments, or you want to say who did it, leave us, just email us from that link below in the description, or you can just email us at thedartarianshow@gmail.com. Thank you, guys.
Thanks for listening.